Picture this. You're at a birthday party and your kid is standing by the wall with their hands over their ears while every other kid is losing their mind in the bounce house. Or maybe it's the opposite. Your kid is the one who can't stop moving, interrupting the magician, grabbing cupcakes before anyone gets a turn. And somewhere in that moment, a thought creeps in that you just can't shake. Is this ADHD? Is this autism? Could it be both? We're going to walk through everything from the way they play to the one emotional sign that's honestly hard for even the experts to catch. So stay with me on this one. Here's the honest truth. ADHD and autism get mixed up constantly, even by teachers and family members who mean well, because on the surface, a lot of the behaviors look similar. The meltdowns, the struggle with transitions, the way play looks different than it does for other kids. But underneath those surface behaviors, the reasons are often completely different. And once you know what you're actually looking at, things start clicking into place in a way that feels almost like a relief. Before we go any further, one honest thing I want to say. I'm not a doctor or a therapist. I'm just someone who spends a lot of time reading the research and talking with parents like you. So think of this as a starting point for noticing patterns, not a diagnosis. If anything here feels familiar, the real next step is always a conversation with your child's pediatrician or a developmental specialist who actually knows your child and can look at the full picture. To really see the difference, we have to look past the behavior itself and get to the why underneath it. So let's start with something almost every parent asks about first: eye contact. A child with ADHD usually wants to connect. They just get pulled away mid-conversation, their eyes drifting toward whatever just moved across the room. An autistic child might avoid eye contact even while they're completely engaged and interested because the eye contact itself feels uncomfortable, not because they've stopped listening to you. Then there's how they handle change, and this one shows up all the time at pickup or drop-off. Picture a dad trying to get his son to leave the park a few minutes early. If his son has ADHD, that meltdown is usually boredom curdling into frustration, or just plain disappointment that the fun is ending. If his daughter is autistic, the reaction is often about the break in routine itself, the schedule in his head not matching what's suddenly happening in real life. Same tears, completely different reason underneath them. Sensory stuff works differently too. Both can involve real sensitivity, but the flavor is different. With ADHD, it often looks like seeking out sensation, a kid who needs to touch everything, chew on his sleeve, bounce in his seat just to feel settled. With autism, the sensory piece tends to be more specific. One particular fabric that feels unbearable against the skin, a background hum nobody else even notices that completely derails the whole day. Focus itself plays out differently, too. A child with ADHD might struggle to sit through something boring, but then suddenly lock in with intense focus on something they love, so much that they forget to eat lunch. An autistic child's focus tends to be steadier and narrower, the same interest explored deeply for weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years, without losing steam. Now, if you're sitting here thinking your child fits into both sides of this, take a breath, because that's actually really common, and we're going to talk about exactly why toward the end of this video. Social interaction has its own pattern too. Picture a dad picking his son up from preschool. If his son has ADHD, they might talk the entire car ride home, interrupting himself, jumping from topic to topic, genuinely trying to connect, but doing it in a scattered, bouncing way. If her daughter is autistic, she might go quiet instead, needing time to recover from the social effort of the day. Or she might talk at length about one very specific topic without quite noticing whether mom's still following along. Even meltdowns themselves have different roots. ADHD meltdowns often come from frustration, from something feeling unfair, from running out of impulse control by the end of a long day. Autism meltdowns are more often tied to sensory overload or a disrupted expectation, the nervous system genuinely maxing out, which isn't a behavior choice at all, even though it can look like one from the outside. If any of this is making you pause and picture your own kid right now, I genuinely love it if you left a comment telling me which part hit home. It helps me know what to talk about next. And if there's another parent in your life quietly wondering about the same thing, sending this their way might be exactly what they need today. Play style tells its own story, too. A child with ADHD tends to bounce between toys quickly. High energy, imaginative, a dinosaur becomes a spaceship, becomes a superhero in about 90 seconds flat. An autistic child might line toys up by color or get completely absorbed in watching how the wheels of a toy car spin, finding real joy in that repetition instead of needing novelty. Language shows up differently as well, and this one surprises a lot of parents. Some autistic kids repeat lines from their favorite shows almost like a script, using those familiar words to express feelings they can't quite find on their own yet. Kids with ADHD, on the other hand, usually talk a lot and fast, jumping from idea to idea, with language development right on track, just delivered like a runaway train that never slows down. Movement has a pattern too. ADHD fidgeting tends to look restless and varied, tapping, wiggling, needing to move just to think clearly. Autism-related movement is often more repetitive and rhythmic, hand flapping, rocking, spinning, the same self-soothing motion showing up the same way almost every time. And then there's emotional expression, which might be the hardest one to catch. A child with ADHD tends to have big, fast reactions that blow through quickly, tears one minute, laughing the next like nothing happened. An autistic child's emotions can be harder to read from the outside, sometimes delayed, sometimes intensely felt but quietly held, which is part of why they're so often misunderstood by people who only look at the surface and never see what's happening underneath. And if you found yourself nodding along to both sides of a few of these, here's the reassurance I promised earlier. ADHD and autism can absolutely show up in the same child at the same time. It's actually far more common than most people realize, and it doesn't mean anything is confusing or wrong with your parenting or your kid. It just means the picture is a little more layered, which is exactly why noticing patterns matters more than trying to sort your child into one box or the other. Here's the thing I really want you to sit with. None of this is about putting a label on your child, and it's definitely not about diagnosing them from a video on the internet. It's about noticing patterns with a little more clarity, so that if you ever do sit down with a pediatrician or a specialist, you're walking in with real observations instead of just a feeling that something's different. That conversation isn't scary. It's actually one of the most loving things you can do for your kid, because clarity helps you support them exactly where they are, not where you're anxiously worried they might be. If this helped you understand your child a little better today, sharing it with another parent going through the same quiet wondering would genuinely mean a lot. And if you've got a second, tell me in the comments which one of these you noticed in your own home. I read every single one. And honestly, this whole community of parents figuring it out together is the reason this channel exists in the first place.